Hey guys, my name is Miranda. Welcome to another video. If you're new to my channel and want to learn about the trucking industry or how to navigate the craziness of the trucking market, feel free to subscribe and click that bell button down below. I hope you guys are having a good week, staying loaded, making that money, and kicking this market's butt.
Unlike some of us who are letting the market kick our butts. I'm looking at you, Miranda.
Now, something I noticed, which is very interesting, is that even though the market is the way it is, there are a lot of hopefuls who are still looking to get into this industry or buy more equipment. And one of the questions I keep getting over and over again is, should you buy, like purchase straight out, finance, or lease your equipment? So that's the topic we're going to be covering today. Ready? Let's go! So if you haven't seen my post yet, I have somehow managed to get my brain together finally.
Questionable.
And I made a website which is somewhere right here. The goal was to make everything simple and accessible, so you will find everything on that website, our jobs, the courses, authority services, free tools that I keep talking about in my videos, and so on and so forth. And I will continue updating that website as I go. Anyway, back to the video. So you decided to get into this industry, or maybe you're looking at expanding your fleet. What should you do? Do you just purchase your equipment? Do you decide to finance it, or should you lease it? Well, of course, there are a ton of pros and cons to each option. So let's start by looking at purchasing your equipment, like we did in 2019 when we purchased our truck and trailer straight out. You go to a dealership, you see a used truck that you really like, the history is pretty good, it costs $109,000, and you decide to purchase it in full. The first and most obvious benefit is that there are no monthly installments and therefore no interest rates that make those monthly installments even higher. The second benefit that I really want to touch upon, which for some reason no one really talks about, is that you can save on insurance when purchasing your equipment in full. Now, in case you didn't know, the FMCSA requires that you have liability insurance as a carrier. Now, the amounts will change depending on what kind of operations you have, but this is pretty much the only thing that FMCSA requires. It does not require cargo insurance, and it does not require physical damage insurance. When we purchased our first truck in 2019, we decided not to get physical damage insurance, and that saved us about $15,000 a year. Now, do I recommend bypassing physical damage insurance? Well, I'm not going to recommend either way, but I am going to tell you why we decided to bypass it. When we started our first trucking company in 2019, it was just me and my family member. We were just the two of us in the company, and we decided that the likelihood of our truck getting stolen or damaged by someone was pretty low. So we decided to risk it and not get physical damage insurance. Now, do we have physical damage insurance now that we have started expanding? Yes, absolutely. Now, what are the cons of paying for equipment in full?
That you go broke?
Well, broke is a harsh word, but yes, you are out of pocket hundreds of thousands of dollars. But then again, if you have a good safety net and you can afford it, then it's not really a con, is it? The real problem with purchasing your equipment in full is the fact that you do not build a credit history for your business, which is very important in this industry if you're planning on expanding your business. Now let's talk about financing. So what is financing? Financing is when you put a down payment on a truck, let's say, and then the balance plus interest is divided into monthly installments until you actually pay that equipment off. Let's look at an example on the board. So you're at a dealership and you see a truck that is worth $150K. You like this truck, you want this truck, you want to finance this truck. So you decide to put a down payment of 30 grand. So the balance you owe is now $120,000. And this balance is now distributed into monthly payments. There are 12-month contracts, 24-month, 36, 48, 60-month contracts. And something to note, the longer the contract, the less you pay on a monthly basis. Clearly. Let's say you decide to take a contract that is 60 months, right? So over 60 months, we'll divide 120,000 over 60 months, and that makes $2,000 per month plus interest. So interest is added to that $2,000 a month. Now, the biggest pro of financing your equipment is that you do not have to have that full amount in cash in order to start working. Also, with financing, you are of course building business credit. As long as you're making those monthly payments on time, you will build a solid business credit that will help you get lower interest rates in the future in case you decide to expand your fleet. On the flip side, we talked about physical damage insurance. When you finance your equipment, you will be required by the financing company to get physical damage insurance, and that can cost between $5,000 to $20,000 per year, depending on where you're based and how long you have been in business. This is because the title to that equipment is not yours until you pay it off. So you have to basically do whatever the financing company tells you to do. Another thing to be aware of is that financing carries with it interest rates. And if your credit is either not good or too new, those interest rates will start climbing. Now, unfortunately, financing can be a very difficult feat, especially if you're completely brand new to this industry, because a lot of financing companies, they do require 2 years of experience in this industry. If you're finding that doors to financing are getting shut in your face, then it may be a good idea to go to your bank, take out a business loan, pay in full for that truck, and then pay back your bank in monthly installments. Just an option. Finally, there is leasing or renting equipment. Now, what is the difference between leasing and renting? Leases are usually for a longer period of time, while rentals are for a short period of time. Now, leasing or renting is something that I don't really recommend, and I will explain why in just a second. So we have month 1 through 4, financing versus leasing. Let's say you're financing for $1,000 per month with interest versus you're leasing for $1,000 per month. So why am I not so excited about leasing? Well, because when you lease, these are expenses, right? These are expenses because at the end of your lease, you don't have anything to show for it. You do not have a truck. Once the lease is done, you give back the truck and that money is gone. Now, when you finance, the interest is an expense, but this that goes towards your principal, this is actually slowly paying off your truck, right? So if your truck was $120K, and you paid $4,000 over 4 months, now you have $116K that is owed on that truck. And after you complete your financing, you end up with a truck. So again, this goes towards your principal. So this is an investment. The only expense in financing is the actual interest rate. So at the end of financing, you end up with a truck or trailer that you can sell. So you're just investing into that asset. Whereas with a lease, you are not going to end up with a truck after this. You're not going to end up with anything. You're just paying to use the truck in the moment. The biggest benefit of leasing is the flexibility and less commitment to the equipment you are leasing. Lease agreements usually last between 1 to 3 years, and you can get out of your lease agreement early if you pay that termination fee. So if you want to get out of this industry, a truck or some equipment is not tying you down. Now, on one hand, you get the flexibility to get out of this industry if it's not working out without having some equipment tying you down. On the other hand, you have less freedom because lease agreements come with mileage restrictions and often strict maintenance schedules. So because of those mileage restrictions, you really have to understand how much you're planning to use your truck, how many miles you're planning to accrue on a yearly basis or on a monthly basis before signing that lease agreement. One thing I recommend always asking before going into a lease is whether the monthly payments have the maintenance included. Are you paying for maintenance in those monthly payments? This is something that is really important to note because many full service lease agreements do include maintenance and repairs in that monthly payment. Anyway, I hope that this video was helpful. I hope you learned something new. I hope I gave you some tools to use in order to make a decision on whether you should buy, lease, or finance your equipment or your future equipment. But other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video.